I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 146. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. All right. Welcome to the show, everyone. I have a very special guest. She has a very special place in my heart. Welcome, Gretchen Nicolaysen.
Thanks, Melissa.
Gretchen doesn't even listen to podcasts.
I really don't. And I feel really weird about being on a podcast.
I know.
So that I will never listen to.
I know. But thank you for coming on because So Gretchen is essentially operations at Springs Law Group in Colorado Springs. So for those of you that listen to the podcast, Jake and Chris, who are the founders of that firm, they were on towards the beginning of the year in January at some point and sharing their experience and what their journey's been like. And this firm has grown a lot and they're growing really quickly. It was a great episode. Got a lot of good feedback. Well, this is the person behind the scenes. This is the person who, truly, as amazing as founders typically are, just as Jake and Chris, as amazing as they are within their own roles and within their own rights, the firm would not be where it is without you in the seat that you've been sitting. And you have been the person in the past that's between them in many cases, in most cases, and the rest of the team and all of you're the ones with your hands in everything and making sure that things are going smoothly and on track and et cetera, et cetera. And they are a bit higher level with the work that they've been doing. And so I wanted to have you on because I think people are really curious and it would do a lot of good for them to hear the experience of what that seat is like and the lessons that you've had to face and learn over the years. And even though you might not feel like you have advice to give, I do think that a lot of what you say today will be advice for people who either for law firm owners who have someone in that seat. And so maybe they can impart some things, or maybe there's someone in that seat that's actually going to be listening to this episode that this could bring some clarity to their role and how they work. So thanks so much.
Sure. Yeah. I really do hope, I do, like you said, I don't feel like I have any advice to give. So I hope I can somehow be helpful to someone out there in the world that, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I met you guys about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you have been at every single quarterly retreat we've had from the get-go, from that very first one. Yeah. You have been there. Mm-hmm. And I always encourage people when they come to these retreats, this is for private client work, not necessarily the virtual stuff that I lead. That's not what we're talking about. But for private clients, if we're going to get to a room for 2 days, there needs to be some sort of support there so that the founders or the founder isn't trying to go back and communicate to their team all the things that came out of that day or 2 days.
Yeah.
So having the person who's really going to help you execute and you trust to be in conversation around business decisions and you trust as a key team player, they should come with you and sometimes more than one. Another way to think about this for many of you listening is your leadership team. Your leadership team should be in the room. And if you don't trust them with those kinds of conversations and being a part of those kinds of conversations, they probably shouldn't be on your leadership team. So when I asked, Jake and Chris, who's coming with you? It was you. And I hadn't met you yet, but it was like, Gretchen. Okay, awesome. So Gretchen shows up and really quickly was clear to me how good you are in that role. Because not everybody is, right?
Mm-hmm.
They bring someone in and they're weak sauce and you weren't that. So do you want to describe what it was like back then for you, even before you met me, around the time you met me? Just what was your work life like? And what was your relationship to work like, et cetera, et cetera?
So it's interesting. So at that point, I had been at Springs Law Group just over 6 months, right? Am I doing the math right? Maybe it was a year
I don't know. I don't
Okay,
remember.
I know, I'm trying to like remember. So we started with you June of 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a year and a half in.
Okay.
So I had started with Springs Law Group in November of 2017. And I mean, full disclosure here, I'm married to Chris. Chris and I are married. We have known Jake since 2005. Like Jake really is like a brother to me, like he's, we've just known each other. We've been through a lot of crap together. And so we already kind of went into it with this tight knit relationship. And so it was kind of a no-brainer when they said, when you asked them, hey, should Gretchen come? I'm like, well, of course she should come because I'm Chris's wife and Jake's friend. And really at that point, it was just the three of us building this firm. And
you had somebody else. I remember.
Oh, did we? We did. We did.
You did.
Well, you're right. But for a long time, it was just the three of us. We did add the fourth person who is no longer with us. And yes, she did not belong there. So I think I come from a unique perspective in the fact that I clearly have a vested interest in seeing Springs Law Group succeed. Like Springs Law Groups makes money. My husband makes more money. In turn, I make more money. So, so I do have a vested interest in a unique perspective, I think, when it comes to my role. And so I was super excited to get to come to the retreat and just everything we've discussed and everything we've learned. And yeah, I think I went way off track. I don't even remember what your question was.
Well, no, that's okay. I mean, before we met, because when we met, we created your accountability chart.
Yes.
And that can be really helpful because it kind of shows like, oh, this is my seat. These are my set of responsibilities.
Yeah.
We all kind of know what we're supposed to be doing at work, but each of us has a bit of a different picture. And so getting it out into a chart can be helpful. So then you saw at that point where you sit and what your role is.
Yeah.
And previous to that, you probably had a concept of what that was, but what was it like before that clarity was given? What was your relationship to SLG like? What was your role at SLG?
So at the time we were doing both family law and personal injury. And, Chris was doing family law, Jake was doing personal injury. And I was all over the place. Like I was doing paralegal work for both Chris and Jake. And we were all over the place. And so even having that org chart to this day, like is such a valuable tool. So every single person, we started as the three of us. We're actually to 11 people right now in our firm. And what's amazing is whenever any new person starts, that's the first thing we do is revisit that org chart because, okay, who's doing what? And we print it up and give every single person in the firm a copy. So that way there are no questions who this person is, what their role is, what their job is. If you need something, where to go, all of that. So even going back to June of 2019 and our very first org chart when there are only four of us, it's amazing just having the clarity, because I would do what I was told. That's what I did. If Chris needed something, he gave it to me. If Jake needed something, he gave it to me. And if it's something that the other person could do, I would pass it on to them. And so it was just so nice having the clarity. I feel like there should be a better word for it, but it just made everything more clear who's doing what and whose job it is to do what. So that way I didn't feel like I had to do everything.
Yeah. It was really clear to me that you were the glue behind a lot of what got done at the firm. And somebody's got to be that, right? Like when things are lifting off the ground, that's got to be someone. And it was you, and you were really good at it. You were just by nature, you're very organized. You care deeply about your work, about like what you produce. You're reliable. You have a good attitude.
I should have asked you this before, Melissa, but am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So really, just like you said, like I love getting shit done. I am the queen of getting shit done. Like you need something done, come to Gretchen. She will take care of it and get it done. And it's not like I don't need to be told every single step. If the first step doesn't work, then I figure it out. What's the next step? If that doesn't work, I keep going until the result is there. And it is something that's just, I think, just an innate part of who I am. I love checking the box. I love getting shit done. And so that's what I do. I spend all day. I mean, Chris will ask me at the end of my day, he's like, well, how was your day? What'd you do? And I'm like, I got shit done. That's what I did. Because that's what I do. So like, it's
Yes.
all about just, a lot of it's just tasks that need to be done and I get them done.
Yeah. Which has also been a big reason, which we should probably get to this in a moment, but delegation has been really hard for you at points because you like getting stuff done. And so it's really hard to just hand things. You have to figure out then what am I supposed to do if it doesn't like crushing tasks.
Yes.
And
because nobody can do it as fast as I can, as well as I can. And that's what I tell myself is like, sure, I can give it to someone else, but I'll get it done faster and I will get it done better because I've been doing it for so long that, and it's just what I do. This is what I know. And so, I do admittedly have a hard time. Delegating.
Yeah. We should touch on that actually in just a bit. Okay. So you are the person that gets shit done. And then when you come to the first retreat, we clarify roles, we clarify responsibilities. That probably was a bit of a superpower for you because the more clarity you have, the better you can crush your job, right? Yeah. But we come up with these goals and rocks every single quarter. And for those of you who aren't familiar with those terms, if you're a newer listener, there is a podcast called Goals versus Rocks that you can listen to. But essentially, once you know what the goals are, which are number goals, then you decide what are you going to do in order to make sure you're on track for those goals. So what are you going to do this quarter that will have the biggest impact on hitting those goals? And it's the effort involved. It's the behavior and effort involved. So you guys pick these every quarter and have for nearly 3 years now. And the truth is, and what I knew, so with private clients, I have a call every month with the founders or the founder, and I have a call every month with operations lead. And there's a reason for that because the operations person is the one that is in charge of execution. And though it doesn't always look like this, but especially back then, and we're getting away from it now, we're moving in that direction, but you want to get to the place where the law firm owners don't have rocks. The team has rocks that are carrying out. At the moment, that isn't what has been happening, and we're getting there. So I need a point person on the team to be able to say, what's going on with these things? What's the status? What's the holdup? What are the interferences, et cetera? And so Gretchen was my person in that coaching relationship with Springs Law. And you can always tell if you've got someone good in that seat for that meeting or not, because the very first meeting will be on point and there's answers or there's not answers. And Gretchen always has answers. So I don't know if you want to share what you feel like your role has been as the firm has grown. There's so many things your hands are in, and there's so many reasons why this firm is successful because of the seat that you sit in. But when it comes to rocks specifically, or just the big priorities for the firm, how do you think about it? How do you stay organized around those? And how do you always know we're on track or off track?
Well, we do a leadership meeting. So me, Chris, and Jake have a meeting once a week. And that's something else that we never did before we started working with you. And so that has been a huge help just in communication. It's so easy just to get so caught up in the day to day and you forget to just talk to each other. And so we have a standing meeting Tuesdays at 1:30. If you ever call Springs Law Group on a Tuesday at 1:30, Chris, Jake, and I are in a meeting. And so it kind of has become this habit and this thing that we just always do now. But one of the things we always talk about in these meetings is a check-in. Like, what are our rocks this quarter? Where are you guys at? What do you need? There's always a check-in in those meetings that we can all kind of keep each other accountable, because I'm not going to babysit Chris and Jake to make sure they get their rocks done. And so, I'm like, you own a law firm, like, handle it. I have my own stuff I need to handle. You handle yours, I'll handle mine. And so it is a good way for the three of us to kind of hold each other accountable and be like, okay, if you need something, that's the place, or, to get this rock done, I need $700, or I need, help from a staff member, or I need whatever. And so it's just a good way for us to keep on top of it, because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day casework that you kind of forget that they're even there. So just us having those meetings, and that's one of the things we automatically talk about in every meeting, that helps us keep on track and get it done. And then we also, at least for me, it is too about just being intentional. Like, okay, I know I have this thing and I know I can't get it all done. I can't just sit down for an hour and complete my rock. That's not what rocks are. And so it is being intentional and blocking out time on the calendar for me to do the work for that rock, whatever it is. You just really have to be intentional about it because it's not going to do itself. And you have to make time for it. And you can just get caught up in your everyday life if you don't make time. I mean, it's true of anything, but rocks, especially, like, you have to make time for it.
Just since we're on the topic of rocks, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but what's one of the rocks that you're the most proud of?
So actually, like, I know it's, I did this one. It was actually the first quarter of 2020.
Okay.
So we had decided I was going to do like outreach to providers. I mean, at this point, so we no longer do family law. We're strictly personal injury, which is just a huge blessing because family law is the worst. Kudos to all of you family law lawyers and practices that can do that because it is so hard. Anyway, so we do personal injury, strictly personal injury now. And so I was in charge of, I think I needed to go visit like 20. I wish I could remember how many providers I went and saw. So it was outreach to providers that like to as potential referral partners. And what I was able to do is it sounds so funny, but my dog groomer was at the time going to school for culinary arts. And so what we did is we hired her to, like, instead of going to the nearest, nothing bundt cakes or corporate place to pick up cupcakes or whatever, she made some of the most beautiful desserts I have ever seen in my life. And so she'd always make a couple extra for us, which was nice. But so I was able to kind of give her work, and we had these amazing boxes of treats to go to these providers. And so I was able to help her. And then she got to make these really cool things that I got to go take to these providers. But I love the outreach part too. I love talking to people and just kind of letting them know who we are and what we do. And at the time we were, I think at our 3-year anniversary, we bought out a movie theater when Onward, that Pixar movie, was coming out. And so, obviously COVID was just starting. And so I actually was like, everything shut down on my last week of that rock. So I wasn't technically able to complete it, which is fine. I'm not dwelling on that at all.
I wish I remember, because we always make sure rocks are really specific. I wonder what
I think it was because I had like 2 offices left to go visit. So basically I blocked myself out once a week. Like, I set it up with Cindy, my dog groomer, cook extraordinaire, and she would deliver stuff to the office on Wednesday mornings, and I would go sometime on Wednesday to go deliver them to these offices. And I had 1 week to go and 2 offices left, but everything shut down right then. And so I was not technically able to complete it, but it was just a really great experience. Like I said, being able to help her, and then also just getting out and talking to people. It is just so refreshing to like just get out of the office sometimes. And
it like builds the relationships that you do care about that matter to the business. And yeah.
And we made a point of, like, my approach to doing it was I would just show up at these offices and be like, hey, we have clients that you've seen and they said nothing but great things about you. And we just wanted to say thanks for taking good care of our clients. You may not know who we are yet, but here you go. And so it just started a good dialogue by doing that. And so I think that by far has been my favorite rock out of all of them.
Okay. Yeah, that's super good to know. In the operations seat, what's one of your biggest challenges that you maybe ongoing have experienced, but it's just part of the role and you figure it out, you navigate it, but it's the tougher piece of it all?
I think for me, it's time management and prioritizing things, because I get stuff from everywhere. I mean, Jake still comes into my office. My official role, I am the case manager, but I'm also the liens person. And I train everybody. I do so many things still. So I think the hardest part of my job is kind of prioritizing my day, making sure I'm getting done the biggest, most important things, eating my frog and getting the ugly things out of the way that I don't want to. I mean, there's no room for procrastination in my job. There just isn't. Because if I'm procrastinating, the money's not coming in the door, and that is unacceptable. And so it's go, go, go from the minute I get here to the minute I go home. And I thrive on that. So that doesn't bother me. But sometimes, like, I'll seriously have like 4 people come, like there's a line outside my door people waiting to come in and talk to me about something because they need something and they need it in the next 10 minutes. Well, I can't always do that. I almost always can't do that. And so it's got to be clear that, yes, I'll get to it, but it's not going to be in the next 10 minutes. And so, having my hands in so many pots still, like I don't have just this one strict, this is your lane. I'm still kind of all over the org chart.
I don't have it's accountability chart.
Accountability chart. Org is easier.
It's not the same thing, but it's totally fair. I know what you mean. Everybody else knows what you mean. Because you're doing technically less than you were 3 years ago.
Yes.
But the business has grown so much.
Yes.
That it hasn't really reduced, like your bandwidth doesn't get to shrink, right?
No.
So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, because when she's saying she has her hands in many pots, she does. And it is every quarter, they all look at this. They're all very aware of where Gretchen is sitting and where they are sitting, which I think we should also come back to. Some quarters, sometimes that's a hard conversation. Like we've had really hard conversations at the turn of the quarter, which is important and necessary. So for everybody listening, it's like, well, it just sounds like her world has gotten crazier as the business has grown. It has, but there's a lot of things that she was doing that other people are doing now. So your role is just expanded and you have delegated, you've hired people to take certain pieces of the job that you were doing 3 years ago. It's just a different shape now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by no means do I mean to convey that it's actually perfect right now. It's not. You guys are keep working towards getting the role to something that feels really good and really sustainable. And it's just been an evolution.
Yeah. And I think we're almost there actually, because, we're actually in the process of hiring a case manager. We actually have an interview on Monday. So let's hope this goes well. And then I can really just focus. So my focus then will just be, I'm going to law school in the fall. So they have to find someone to replace me anyway. And so my goal is actually.
Can we just stop for a second? So Gretchen just found out.
Yeah.
Like what, 2 days ago?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
I know. Yeah. You're going to be an amazing lawyer, and whatever you do, whether you come back and work with SLG or whether you do something entirely different, it's just, man, what a gift to that industry. Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. So then again, the whole thing's going to change, because I don't expect that we can hire someone to sit in my seat and do everything that I'm doing. Because it's a lot. Like one thing we decided to do is I started writing down everything I do. So that way we can actually define the case manager role, because I'm just kind of the do everything person. And so I don't do everything, but I do a little bit of everything,
Yeah. And it's a newer role that you guys put in.
Yes.
Once you developed. So Springslaw developed pods to sort of split up and manage their clients so that they're doing a really good job managing them. And then when you guys did that, it was like, I think it may have taken a couple quarters to determine for sure, but you put a case manager over all of those pods, right?
Yeah.
But then in each pod, there is an attorney and a paralegal and someone else too. Or no, just attorney and paralegal.
Well, we do have a separate onboarding person that does all the intake and all the onboarding stuff. Yeah.
So Gretchen's basically been over all that, but her name is also over.
But my name's also in the pod because I do the liens. I verify all the liens. And so, And then I'm also in the HR pod doing, I do all the employee reviews. I do all of the provider outreach. I do and actually that's changing too. We just hired a client happiness coordinator, and she's taking over that. So we are starting to kind of narrow it down, which will be good for the person who takes over for me, because it's a lot.
Yeah. And I guess the reason I just brought all that up, actually, I'm super glad you just shared all that, but I just remembered the reason I brought up that this case manager role is new. Like you're talking about writing down everything that you do. Yeah. There's so many responsibilities on your accountability chart, but that role is new enough that it's not baked out really yet on the chart. I mean, there's like implied things there. There's nothing explicitly stated like this, then this, then this, and this, and this. So it's good that you're doing that, because you can transfer it all to the chart.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's been one of the challenges, is just juggling it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. You're so good at it. I'm surprised that's what you said because you're just so good at it to me. It's
well,
like, yeah,
it's not that it's like, I mean, it's challenging the fact that it's just, it's exhausting sometimes. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I just think it would be so nice just to come in and just do liens and go home, or just come in and just not just be a paralegal, but just focus on these 100 cases and then go home, And so, yeah, it's just, sometimes it just gets tiring and it ebbs and flows like everything. And so I think that's why I'm in a tired point right now. So maybe that's why it's the most challenging part of my job. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Tell me, when you think back over the last, just since I've known you, and the reason I'm using that as a benchmark is because that's when there was clarity about like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is what we're shooting for at X, Y, and Z. What do you think, like as a one-off, something you had to get through, and maybe as a team, but what stands out to you from your seat and your role in it? What was probably one of the biggest challenges that you can recall that you've had to deal with?
So, and I think this actually is like it's my own neuroses is what it is. Like, it's not necessarily, it was two things actually, because one of our core values is being open and honest. And so I would say one of the biggest things that can help a business grow is just open and honest communication, all the way up, all the way down, from the owners to the receptionist. Like, you have to have hard conversations. And so at the beginning, that was very hard for me because I'm such a nice person and I want everyone to like me and, all that. And so it took certainly over time, and the more hard conversations we've had, the better we've all gotten at it. Because I, actually had to sit down with someone the other day and just kind of explain, hey, this isn't going well. We need to get this tightened up. Like, we'd love having, if she's a new employee, like, we'd love having you here, but we have to tighten this up. And if I don't tell you this, then you're never going to know. So
I'm so proud of you.
Have to have these conversations. And so now I'm just like, I don't waste any time. I'm just like, if there's a problem, like, we need to discuss it, and we need to discuss it now, because the leadership team complaining about it doesn't do any good at all. It does zero good. Like, you have to have a conversation with the person it involves, even though it's hard. You have to have those conversations, because if you don't, they'll never know they're messing up. How are they going to know if you don't tell them?
I didn't mean to say like, I'm so proud of you, like a mom. You're right. You are extremely kind and you care deeply about people. Do you think it is fair to say that your tendency is to be non-confrontational?
When it's personal, yes. Like, I'll debate politics with anybody any day.
Sure.
I'm all about having, like, I don't fear conflict necessarily, but when it's personal, when I'm telling someone, hey, you're not doing this very well, knowing how that can come across, I think that's a whole different level of confrontation that is hard. I don't know anybody that loves doing that. I don't know anybody that it's a hard thing to do.
I was just listening. I hope you do listen to this back, because the reason I said I'm so proud of you is because you said, if something doesn't go right, I just, as soon as we can, I sit down and I say, hey, this is what's going on. We need to fix this. We need to tighten this up. This isn't okay. Like, the Gretchen that I knew when I first met you would be like, oh, shit. Like, what?
Yeah.
This is just like who you are. This is what you do. Yeah.
Because I see the value in it. You know what I mean? I'm bought into it because I've seen what a difference it's made for our firm.
Yeah.
So you just bite the bullet and just do it. Like,
yeah. Okay. What's the second thing? You said there was two things.
So, and maybe this is just something just because of my relationship with Chris and Jake, obviously. So I have this, again, my own neuroses of being the boss's wife. Like, I have struggled with that.
Yeah.
For so long. And clearly it just, it just gets to me, because I don't ever want any staff member ever to look at me and think in their heads, they're here because she's Chris's wife. Like, I'm here because I deserve to be here and because I work my ass off. And I really don't think any of our staff thinks that. So that's the funny part about it, is it literally is my own paranoia. Yeah.
The language you just used was I struggle, or it's a struggle. It isn't a struggle. Like, no one, you are correct. No one thinks that.
It's all made up in my head. Yes.
It
totally is.
So and I have air quotes around you being a boss's wife isn't
Yes.
a struggle. Like there is, it's just your
Yeah.
fear of coming across that way
Yes.
is
Yes.
is what like gets to you. And so
Absolutely.
you mitigate against that as hard as you can.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, and nobody probably cares or even notices or whatever, but it makes me feel better knowing that like I work hard for this firm. It's not totally because I'm Chris's wife. It's because I'm a hard worker and that's just what I do. You know, no matter every job I've ever worked at, that's what I do. And so that's why it's funny because when I decided to go to law school, that's when I was like, I'm tired. I'm like, I don't want to be the boss's wife. Like, I want to be the goddamn boss. And so like, that's just when I actually put that in my personal statement to the law schools. It's like, you know, I don't want to be the boss's wife anymore. Like it's, you know, it's time for me to step up and be the boss and level up and, you know.
So good. What is something that all this stuff, you guys, by the way, is like, I'm just throwing it at Gretchen. I didn't give her these questions beforehand. So if you don't have an answer, we can just move on to the next question. What is something that in your seat as you've been managing people and as you've grown, you've arguably been the heaviest manager, meaning like you've had the most people underneath you. What has been a tool or a tactic that you've found helpful as you've grown in that role to be better at that, to be better at managing?
Well, I think it is just having a good system in place for training, having good systems in general, because it's a good thing to fall back on, you know, like, hey, this isn't Gretchen's rule. This is Springs Law Group rule. You know what I mean? Like we have all of our systems in Tetra and like, this is how we do it at Springs Law Group. And there's no room for like, you know, so any new attorneys or any new paralegals view, or I mean, I guess we're open to, and it changes all the time. Our systems change. Absolutely. As we've grown, as we've learned a lot, and they have changed over time. But when that happens, I mean, literally yesterday, Jake and me and two of the paralegals had a redaction training, you know, because we have a new paralegal and we want to make sure everyone's doing it the same, that all of our demand packages look the same. So just having the systems in place so that way, as more and more people come on, even the other paralegals can say, no, this is how we do it at Springs Law Group. You know, this is what our demand packages look like. These are the things we're redacting out of our medical records, you know, so that way it's just clear. We just need clarity. And so that way no one's guessing what their job is and what they're supposed to be doing and what it's supposed to look like.
That's so good. I mean, yeah, it's funny. This can be common, but when I first met you guys, a lot of your rocks were around systems and processes. And then you kind of get to some stability with that and your rocks shift. Like it's not really about that anymore. It's about other things that are meaningful to the growth at that point. Cause you did that. Not that they don't need tweaked, to your point. They always need updated and change and et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about your systems, the way that it is set up for you? So you said you're in Tetra. That's where they all live. And part of my curiosity is, can you think of a system that once you got it in place, allowed you guys to put your foot on the gas in a way that you couldn't before, or experience ease and flow that you just couldn't before you had that done?
You know, I don't know that it's like one specific system. I think it was like taking that time. I mean, like rocks that are around systems are boring and they are not fun. Like they just aren't, but they have to get done. Like, and just you saying that, like, we haven't had one of those for a little while. And it just made reminding me like how nice it is that we don't have to do that. Well, I mean, it's not that we're not still working on our systems, but it's not the central focus because we've done the bulk of the work. And so I think just honestly, just doing all of it, you know, there's not just one system that's like, it just flipped a switch and it was smooth sailing. Like, I don't think that exists. I think that's fairyland, you know.
That's a good point.
I think doing the bulk of that work and spending a year and a half on those rocks and doing all of that, it laid such a great foundation for everything that came after it.
I was just thinking back to, do you remember some of the systems and processes that you guys had as rocks?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What were they? Because you were just saying the heavy lifting. Because it was like going from no system to a system. And you don't really have many places in the firm that don't have a system now. So going from 0 to 1 with systems and processes, what were some of those?
So, I mean, we started at the beginning of a personal injury case and we did a system for everything along the way. So we did, answering the phone. We did, if a client shows up at the door, we did a system for sending out letters of representation. We did, requesting policy limits from, insurance companies. I mean, really, we've done lien systems. We've done, like Jake started a litigation system. Like we have an onboarding system, both for new clients and for new employees, new staff. Like we have systems for like really just about, sending out emails. I mean, we literally started at the beginning and wrote down everything we did in a day and made a system for it because that's what everyone's doing. We do the same things every single day. And and it's made such a difference. We have able to put links in Tetra so you can like actually link to the actual LOR you want sent out. We've done videos in Tetra. You can do so much with Tetra. So that way you're covering all your bases on, especially with new staff, whatever their learning style is, whether it's, visual, audio, whatever. Mm-hmm. So we kind of have all of our bases covered that way too, with the videos that we can add in there.
Mm-hmm. And for everybody listening who feels like, oh man, I have so many systems I need to put in place still. They really did chip away at this quarter by quarter. Mm-hmm. I think it can be paralyzing when you think about all of the things that you need. All of the systems and processes that you need, it can feel like, I don't even know where to start. And then you get busy and you don't start. But that was part of every quarter. What are the systems or processes that are most important, that will have the most impact?
Yeah.
Let's start there. And then you just kept chipping away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to like being intentional about it. And again, you're not going to sit down and write down all your systems in one day in one sitting. That doesn't happen. And so it is just making the conscious choice to be intentional about it and setting up. If you spend 1 hour a week doing systems, I mean, at the end of the quarter, you've spent 12 hours getting systems done. And you can get like, especially the easy ones, like sending out a letter of representation. It'll take you 15 minutes to write that system, if that. So like, if you can get 2 or 3 done in an hour, by the time the end of the quarter rolls around, you've got 20 to 30 systems done. So it's like the whole, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, And so you just have to make the decision and be intentional about it and just decide to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question. When you look back over the journey, really being in the operations seat, which I don't even know what is your role?
My card says case manager. My business card says case manager.
But that's new. What was it right before the case manager, which is fine?
Oh, it was office manager. They just had me as the office manager. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't think I knew that. I don't like that's the worst. The worst. Anyone out there who has office managers, don't have an office manager because it's the catch-all. And lucky that you guys made the decisions to get really organized around this stuff. And it was very clear what your responsibilities and roles are. But typically, if you have an office manager and that's what you call them, it's just a hot mess of a job that somebody's supposed to take. And there isn't clarity and there's no written roles or responsibilities. So pick a different word. What is their role? It's not to manage the office. It's either to manage a team of people or I don't know, but it's a bad term. If I knew that, I would have asked to change your business cards. Anyway, okay. Yeah. So as you started in that role, and I call it operations because it is what you're doing. You are my point person for operations inside of your firm. You always know the nuts and bolts, the ins, the outs, the deadlines, the people, all of it. So you are operations to me. So from that seat, what has been one of the most fun and or exciting pieces of being a part of this firm, this team, this journey, especially within the seat that you have?
I think my favorite part is really just seeing the growth, like really knowing where we started when it was me, Chris, and Jake. And that was it. And I actually came from a dental background. I was the office manager of a dental office before I started with Chris and Jake. And so it was all brand new to me, the law, all of it. And so I was like drinking from a fire hose and it was not pretty. And so to know that we started, doing family law and Chris was doing estate planning and like, we were just kind of like, so knowing where we started and where we are now and where we're going, like, it's so exciting. It is so exciting to see. And I don't know if that's me as an operations manager or me as Chris's wife and Jake's friend or what, but it is exciting to just kind of see our potential. Like we have so much potential and we have things set up and organized in a way that we are built for growth. And it's exciting when it actually happens. And I don't know. It's fun to watch because I get to keep track of everything in Airtable too. So I'm the one that tracks all of our new clients, our closed cases, our case value, all of that. And so so I see all of it. And so I love the potential excitement around where we're going to end up. Mm-hmm. Who knows where we're going to end up, but we're certainly just headed in a great direction.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm so glad you said that. So the operations point person for me, it always is the one who's responsible for making sure that the data gets entered into their table. And for private clients, we build a data table that tracks a lot of the things. And at this point, you guys, there's certain other things you're tracking that aren't in that, but that's where the cases are. That's where the revenue is. That's where that we can calculate a bunch of things. And so Gretchen goes in every Friday and adds the way that their table is set up, because this isn't the case for everyone. She can go in weekly and add updates, and some firms it's just monthly, but yeah, that's Gretchen. It's all Gretchen. So, and then all three of you can look at that data at any point, but you're the one that goes in to enter it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've automated a lot of that now so that you don't have to manually enter it. There's a lot of automations. You guys hired Kelsey Bratcher.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so great. I mean, a new client signs up, they automatically go into Airtable. Cool. I mean, I'll go in and assign a pod and I'll track who referred them to us, like how they found us. Yeah. And so I put that information in. And then when we close out cases, I'll put in all the case values and case costs and all that. But
which takes you, I think a lot of people get really weird about having to manually enter things, but how many minutes do you spend every week in Airtable?
Oh, maybe 15.
Yeah.
Not that much. It takes
before Kelsey, would you spend?
Oh, but even then, all that goes in there from Kelsey is just the client's name. Okay. The brand new client. They just get added onto the bottom of the list. Okay. And so, but really it just takes a few minutes just to add in the additional information. And then when the case is closed, the attorney sends me all of the data for it. And then it literally takes 10 seconds to put it in there.
Yeah. So her columns, which, I mean, you are in this more than I am, but are basically the name and of course the pod, the responsible attorney, the open date, the start month and close month, and then the start date and close date for different reasons, because we could pull different calculations from both of those fields. And then the case value. Oh, we actually do.
Well, it calculates it itself. Like
it calculates the case value?
The average case value. Yes. So I put it, I'll put in the actual, what we settled the case for. And then, but that's what I always look at is,
I think you put in case costs, plus you put in the total amount that came in,
the total settlement.
And then the case fee is calculated by subtracting out the costs. So anyway, it's like each record is its own line. And then from there, we can pull averages. We can take a look at like pod averages if we want to, which is something we'll probably start doing. So there's a big source of truth is what we call it.
Yeah.
Like that data table is source of truth.
Yes. And to throw a Melissa Shanahan at you, like we use it all the time because it's facts, not feelings. Like that is a table full of facts. Yeah. Like if we feel like this month isn't going well, we can go look at Airtable and be like, oh, wait, we have 15 new clients this month. What are we freaking out about? Yeah. And so, we feel like our revenue isn't as high as it should be. Because I actually looked at it the other day and I slacked Chris and Jake about it. I said, do you realize that we're like 80 grand higher this year already than we were by the end of the first quarter of last year? Wow. So I mean, it's just good to notice those things. And if you're not tracking it, how would you ever know? It's because then you feel like it wasn't, but no, we pull out all the time. Melissa says it all the time. Facts, not feelings. We use it. It's because it's true.
And it serves you when things are down. It's like, it's the truth. So looking at it instead of, because there's times where one way or the other, sometimes you feel like you're doing great and you look and it's like, oh, wait a minute. We need to get like, what can we do to get serious? Like, what can we do to help this as much as possible? We're off track. But it's just either way, most of the time though.
Yeah.
And this is true for most firms. Most of the time, once you start, you have the ability to get data and you can put it in a place Most of the time, people underestimate their progress. And that is a really good table to look at so that you can figure out.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, okay, we're making really good progress.
Yeah.
Do you guys look at it together at your leadership meetings?
Not very often, but all three of us look at it like regularly. And so we're usually able to speak to it. And like, we all like, oh yeah, like we don't have to go look at it to verify the numbers. Like we're all just kind of on it.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for your upcoming retreat? It's just in a couple weeks.
I'm excited. I don't know. I always get really nervous actually before a retreat.
You do.
Because I just don't ever know. Like,
tell people why you get nervous and just like what the experience is like before, during, after.
So, okay. I think what actually makes me nervous is I don't know what to expect. I mean, okay, just in the sense of like the retreat's the same every time, but different shit comes out every time we're together. And there's different shit that the three of us will talk about because Melissa's there to be a moderator than what we would say to each other, just the three of us. And so I think sometimes things can get uglier than I want them to. Uglier is not the right word, just messier, I think. I hate dealing with that stuff. And so there's always this underlying fear that we're going to go to a retreat and something's going to come up and a fight's going to start or, whatever. But 99% of the time, our retreats are actually very pleasant and they're very productive. But no matter what, all three of us all walk out of those retreats just with this like renewed sense of like purpose, like, we have these new numbers, we have these goals, we have these rocks to work on. Like, it's like, so it's not about what we did last quarter. It's like, okay, our focus is this quarter, like, let's go. And so it's just a good motivator actually, just to get refocused and re-energized for the upcoming quarter.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you guys will have a bunch of new things to talk about, especially since you are for sure going to law school.
Yeah. And so the thing is, this may actually be my last retreat.
Why not June?
Potentially.
Oh, this is it's like bittersweet.
I know. Because I actually almost asked Chris and Jake, like, can I just come to the retreats anyway? I'll still be working here, just not full time. So like, can I just come? I don't know. Well, maybe we'll talk about that at the retreat.
Yeah.
Because I do love, like, we all love the retreats. Like, we all look forward to it. And like, because even those hard conversations that are happening, like, they needed to happen. And so like, there's just usually this sense of relief afterwards. It's just, being in the middle of it is ugly and everyone's uncomfortable and we all hate it, but it still needed to happen. If it didn't happen there, it would have happened in a different place that would have been way uglier and way less productive. So I think that's another actually good thing about the retreats is that we do have the space to handle the tough issues between us that we don't like to handle on our own.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes even speaking for myself, dealing with someone else where there's some heat and friction, it's a good idea to have a neutral space. Yeah. With someone who doesn't have a bias. It's just like, no, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And it just makes it easier on everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's always my underlying angst about the retreats is like, oh shoot, does somebody have something that they're waiting for the retreat to talk about? Because
you guys usually know though before. You're not usually shocked by anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You walk in like, there's some things.
I think this one will be good. I think this one will be fine.
Oh, well, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, whatever's needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anything else? I'm just thinking of people out there who are either listening to this with someone who is sitting in that seat, that it's really focused on execution in the business work. Yeah. That's a key player, or someone who maybe this gets passed to for them to listen. Yeah. And then I have a second question, a follow-up question for this, but anything you'd say to those people who are just open.
So yes. And it's actually to the operations. It's relating to the operations and the owners, their relationship. Like the operations person has to be able to push back on the attorneys. They have to be able to go to their boss and say, no, this is not okay. They have to be able to. And I feel like certainly as my replacement, I mean, I have no problem saying that to Chris because he's my husband and I'm right and he's wrong. And that's just all there is to it. And then, but even Jake, because I've known him so long, I have no problem marching into Jake's office and being like, wait a minute, like, this is not cool. Like, whatever it is, And so, but I think for the average operations person, I think that's a very hard thing to do to your boss. It's a very hard thing to push back on your boss because he signs your paychecks and they determine if you're going to be employed or not, And so I think a good operations person has the ability to go and do that. And a good owner has an open enough mind that they'll listen, and they don't necessarily have to agree and do what they say, and the operations person has to understand that too. But like, they have to be willing to listen and actually think about it and not be offended or upset by it. But I think it's important that they take the time to, really think about what they're being told, because that's a scary thing for the operations person to come in and tell their boss, hey, this isn't cool,
Yeah. The reason I think you could do that, you have history, but I'm even thinking of other people I've seen in this role, is that there's trust in that person in that seat.
Yeah.
And they know you're there for the right reasons, and you make decisions from a place of deep understanding of how this goes and deep integrity. And like, you are lined up with the core values of the firm.
Yeah.
Straight up. And if that person, I'm asking, I guess, do you think if the person is a little off or has an agenda that's not really in line with where the firm is going, is the attorney supposed to be as open? Is there room for discretion based on motivations by the person sitting in that seat?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I mean, obviously, operations people, we're as human as everybody else. And my perspective is not always the right one, but I do feel that it is their job just to listen. And usually once I've told them, whether they choose to act on it or not, or whether they decide to do anything about it or not, that's on them. But at least then I've done my job in pointing it out to them and being like, hey, this isn't working well, or hey, you really hurt this person's feelings the way that you were talking to them yesterday, or whatever it is. I mean, I know those things aren't easy to hear from anybody, let alone a staff member. So that's why I think, just be open and obviously use your judgment and move according, because it is still your firm. That's even to this day, I'll tell Chris and Jay, I'll do what you tell me to do, because this is your firm. My name is not on that door. You are my boss, and I will do what I'm told. And so, like,
you have a seat at the table, and you use that. You use your voice at the yeah.
That is it. That's exactly right. So the operations person needs to have a seat, and the attorney, the owner, needs to respect that. But then they also need to the operations also needs to understand that it is ultimately the owner's choice decision. If you want to have the staff member pissed at you for a week and a half, great, that's on you. But at least I did my part to clear it up, get it fixed, whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, now question to the firm owner that's listening to this that doesn't have this seat, this position is not filled, and they'll need to do that at some point, whether they're a little late on it or it's a little early for them. Any advice that you would have for either how to set this up well, just from your vantage, or what to look for, or like any advice if they're going to be heading in that direction? Would you give a piece of advice?
So I would actually give two. The first one is to have a system, like have a job description set up for this person so that the way their role is clearly defined. Every role needs definition for sure, because it makes everyone's job so much easier and so much better. It just, I don't know, it makes such a difference having that role defined so they know what they're doing instead of just everything getting dumped on them, That's my first piece of advice, is to just clearly define the role so that you know what you're looking for, someone who can check these boxes, The second piece of advice is to use Jay Henderson, because that man, holy cow, like he's somebody that we have heard about for years. Everyone raved about Jay Henderson, use Jay Henderson, his hiring MRI, do it. And we just didn't. And it's one of those things we are kicking ourselves for now, because we did have an attorney that we hired and shouldn't have. And they didn't even last 90 days. But it literally, as soon as we got the assessment back from Jay Henderson, because we just kept hoping that she would get better. We kept hoping that more training, and then we got his assessment back and we're like, oh God, no, this is not going to work. And so we could have totally avoided hiring this person in the first place. And so I would tell anyone listening, like, just do it. If you're hiring for any position, for anything, talk to Jay Henderson first, because I tell you what, he's, first of all, one of the nicest people I've ever met. And second of all, he knows his shit and has made such a difference. Every single person we've hired since then, every person, we won't even interview them until they've taken his assessment. And we've avoided some, I'm sure, because we're nice people. We want to see the best in the person sitting across from us. And we need this position filled. So we're like, we want to see the best in the person across from us. But when we can get, and again, facts, not feelings, if we can get this objective assessment back, telling us all of the issues this person has, like, really, I think we've dodged several bullets since we started using Jay. So
I love that was your second piece of advice. So I've heard of him as well. And then once you guys started using him, and he made such a difference in your firm. And so then I talked to him. I've used him inside of Velocity Work now, and I'm still using him, trying to find like the right next hire. And he's been incredible. And also I had him talk to a small group that I run yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. He came on and it was all about performance management to this group and how to actually manage performance within it. And none of them have ever used his assessment. And if they did, this would be on steroids. His presentation would have been on steroids for them, because they would understand, oh, these are the levers to pull with these employees. And not in a using people kind of way. It's in a understanding your people kind of way. Like, So I think it was awesome to hear him talk to them. And I think that many of them will end up hiring Jay. And I am all for, I don't think there is a way that is a bad decision to hire Jay to help with and provide some assessments.
I agree. Because we did that first too. We had him do an assessment on everyone that was currently working at Spring Law Group, including me, Chris, and Jake, And so, and it was fascinating. It's fascinating. And he kind of gave us the breakdown on, hey, this is how you want to talk to this person. And this is how you want to approach tough subjects with this person. And oh my God, like, literally game changer. Like, call Jay Henderson if you're ever hiring, even if you're not, do it on your staff. Like, it's worth the money. It's worth the time. It literally is a game changer.
I think his URL is Real Talent Hiring.
Yeah, I think so too.
So people can go check him out there. He is a wonderful human. You just want to be around him.
He is. I know, right? Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing a bit about your experience and what it's like in this role, especially as you guys have grown. And I hope that people take away that I think it's easy for our jobs to feel messy. And yours has felt messy, and then maybe not messy, and then messy, but it's just like it's the growth of the curve, right? Or the curve of the growth. And it has shifted. So your job, though messy and it's morphed, it's a different job right now than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people think that there is a job out there, or like that this seat can ever be just easy peasy. Just, saunter into work, saunter out of work at maybe like 9 to 3:30 or 4. Like, I'm not saying that people can't create those hours for themselves. I'm not saying, but this is a job. The operation seat is what you said earlier. The kind of person that's good for that is the kind of person that has the mentality that shit's going to get done. And you need to get off. We didn't actually go into delegation. That's for another day, I guess. But you need to stop being the one to do it all, but you need to be managing the people who are behind it. Right. Yeah. And so I just
add one more thing on that. I think one of the most important things you can get in an operations manager too is someone that can speak up for themselves. Because there've been many times I've had to go to Chris and Jake and be like, no, this is too much. Like, I can't do one more thing. And so that was a very hard thing for me to do because I want to be able to do everything, but I just can't. And so like, don't hire the girl that's gonna just take everything you say and just do everything you do, want her to do, because she'll do it. She'll break her neck doing it for you. Like there has to be balance, and you have to have someone that can stand up for themselves to say, or yes, I can get to it, but not for 3 more days because I've got too much other stuff to do before now, and hey, I can't do one more thing. We have to it's time to hire someone new, or it's whatever it is. Like, just don't get a yes girl, because that you'll just wear her down and break her neck. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Cause that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. This has been so fun to talk to you. And whether someone's got someone in the seat or not, it's just never a cakewalk. That's not the nature of this role. And if you have a COO, likely you're growing, right? If you have someone that's in that seat that's really running things behind the scenes, likely you're growing. And if you're growing, then it's never going to be a cakewalk job. There's always new challenges, new things to think through, new systems, new processes, new people. And if you're in operations, you have a lot to do with that. So even though you had the title office manager, I did not know that. That is not what you were doing, but whatever. Not what it was on the freaking accountability chart.
No, it was not.
So yeah.
I think my signature block on my email still says office manager.
Oh my God.
It's so funny.
Change that.
Yeah, I'll go change it. I will.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going to put boss extraordinaire.
There you go. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Happy to do it.
Bye. Hey, you may not know this, but there's a free guide for a process that I teach called Monday Map, Friday Wrap. If you go to velocitywork.com, it's all yours. It's about how to plan your time and honor your plan so that week over week, more work that moves the needle is getting done in less time. Go to velocitywork.com to get your free copy.